All right. I see it's says recording and it's got like the ellipses. Does that mean it's recording right now, or does that mean
Yeah, you're good.
okay, we're good? All right. Well, we've got a decent turnout now, so I think we can get started. Welcome everyone to the April 2021 Our Revolution Arlington general meeting. I am seeing, let's see if there's anyone new here. Well, there are a few faces, a few names I don't recognize. So for those of you who are here, if this is your first time, welcome. We are Our Revolution Arlington. We are a progressive grassroots organization that emerged from the 2016 Bernie Sanders presidential campaign. We're nonpartisan, but we are very progressive. We are issues focused, though. Though today is going to be a little a little bit of a departure from that, because tonight's topic is going to be on transforming the Democratic Party, how to do it, what kind of strategies and tactics we should use. And to speak about that is Kristin Hoffman. She's the state level organizer with Our Revolution Virginia. After that, we'll be hearing from Elizabeth Guzman about her campaign for lieutenant governor. And then after that, we will be hearing from the campaign manager for Karishma Mehta's campaign about opportunities we have to do things like phone banking canvas for her campaign to really to help her out. So this is going to be, oh, and we have some very exciting updates regarding Our Revolution Arlington. So stay tuned for those. This is going to be a really good meeting. This is going to be a really packed meeting. Lots going on. So with all that out of the way, I think we can get started. Kristin, go ahead. Do you have a PowerPoint or?
I don't, but if I could, I do have one slide I'd just like to talk about, since there might be some people who are like, what is the Our Revolution State Organizer? If I could just kind of intro myself and what that kind of means, maybe that would help set the stage as well.
Yeah, sure. Let's get this.
You just make me
how
the
do I
co-host real quick. So
yeah, let me see where.
Hello, it's good to be back talking in Our Revolution Arlington. I think yeah, I was actually like the founding member. The team was like, yeah, you sign the MOU for us. And then I just happened to hand it off to the steering committee and got out of Dodge in 2017. So I will be telling you guys tonight about what I was doing down in Florida while I was gone. But it's good to be back. So I left Florida. I left Arlington, went to Tampa, Florida, and within 6 months of moving, got cancer, and then beat cancer. And that kind of got my mobilizing and organizing juices flowing, because it occurred to me that I was just lucky to, one, be alive, two, to not be bankrupt. And that happens to so many cancer survivors, that they go bankrupt within a year or two of their treatments. And it's just a shame. So I actually got one of my first big organizing things was to start Our Revolution Tampa Bay with a couple of great progressives and Bernie supporters. And then I worked with a coalition of coalitions to get a Medicare for All resolution approved by the Tampa City Council. And other than that, we were all in on Bernie. But sadly, March, here we are a year into COVID. But a year ago, we were, in March 17th was the second Super Tuesday with the Florida primary. And I had been hosting a Bernie staffer in my house for 5 or 6 weeks. And he was literally out the door the next day. They were all told to just get home and be prepared to hunker down. So what a difference a year makes. But thankfully, the Bernie people, sorry, let me give you, I see your note, you want to take that back. I don't know how to give you host back. I think you
Oh,
have to just take it back, Dan.
oh, how do I? Joe, how do I take the? I forgot that I may need to admit more people into the room. I made Kristin host. How do I take that back?
There should hopefully be something on your screen. I don't know. Dan's the expert.
Dan S. Real quick.
I never gave people hosting privileges.
You did that last time though. Oh, I see. Oh, here it is. Reclaim host.
I think there you go.
There we go.
Somebody make co-hosts. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry, I just remembered there
No
might
worries.
be more people. Yeah. Yep. So continue, Kristin.
Yeah. So we got that, and when the Bernie campaign kind of ceased work, we stayed together. The Bernie Victory Captains didn't disband. We just kind of reformed and decided that our new mission was to take over the Florida Democratic Party. And so I'd like to share some of the successes, lessons learned, and how that might work with Virginia and other states. But how I got here as the state organizer, if you could let me, can I be co-host for a second? And I'll just talk about state organizer. You may or may not realize that our revolution kind of has two phases. So you had the Bernie 2016 campaign staff essentially became the Our Revolution staff in 2017. And when Bernie 2020 got started, that Our Revolution staff pretty much just picked up and went over to Bernie 2020. So Our Revolution was a skeleton crew for a while during the Bernie campaign. They had, they were literally skeleton crew. Like they could barely keep the website running because it was actually a special code that, that Bernie had used in his 2016 campaign. And they had to kind of rewire a whole bunch of things. So when you start seeing that new Our Revolution web design, that's the new management that they've kind of redone, and they come from labor, and so it's really great for our focus on working people and putting people before profits. So they have great organizing skills in that respect. But another great thing is they realize that the promise of Our Revolution really hasn't come to full fruition because some of the chapters had been left to kind of fend for themselves in the interim. And so they've been starting to try to get state chapters or state organizers at least get into each state and kind of be that liaison between headquarters and the local chapters to relay information, to help set up phone banks, to help run meetings and kind of re-engage people so that they could keep the chapters growing and keep the movement going. Because if you don't keep people engaged, they'll find something else to do, or they'll stop being active and stop mobilizing against the horrors. I mean, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And so we want to keep people paying attention. So that's what I'm here for, to try to, there's no off year in Our Revolution. And it's particularly good that they got me in here on time for Virginia, our statewide elections. So another thing that I wanted to share is just what is Our Revolution what their mission is this year. And they had a 4-point plan. They decided it really needed 5 points, and they added that for this first thing about organized grassroots progressive powerhouses. And so that's really what my number one, priority is to support all of the local chapters and try to get them to be both self-sustaining, but also, know what to ask for and know all the tools that they could possibly use, get them mobilize accounts, get them, help them organize the data of who their members are and how they can reach out to those members and how they could find other members. Everybody always asks, like, what happened to Bernie's, 2016, his database of names? Well, they're in our revolution. So the 2016 names, that is, and if you're a legit group, you could ask for, okay, I would like to know who all those Bernie supporters were in these, couple of zip codes, and we can now give those to the leaders so they can reach out to those Bernie supporters and ask if they would like an organizing home, and so that's kind of my job, to liaise, to triage new members and try to find a home. If somebody just happens to be on the page and they want to get involved, I'll ask them, like, well, are you with a local chapter? Would you like to start a local chapter? Or would you just like to, and then be a catch-all. If they're just like, no, that chapter's, each chapter kind of has their own personality. Like some people like, admiring legislation and, tracking what's happening with certain bills. Others like want to be out in the streets. And then others are going to do like educational type stuff. And that's great. So we have to respect that some members are just going to want to, just get involved when they have time. And so I would just kind of be that catch-all to kind of advertise when there's a campaign at headquarters that, you can get involved with, like, just call Senator Warren and Mark Warner, and let him know, hey, you're one of only 5 Democrats in the Senate who hasn't signed on to the PRO Act yet. Get with it. So anyone in Virginia can do that. Anyone across the country can harass and politely demand that those Democrats act like Democrats. So that gets into number 2, holding Congress and the president accountable. No more dinos. Dinosaurs are extinct, so Democrats in name only need to go away, or listen to us. Elect progressive champions, and get those champions who are going to fight for our progressive policies. That goes hand in hand. So build the progressive party. And that's where we are today. How do we build a progressive party? There's got to be an inside strategy and an outside strategy. And our revolution fits in well with the outside strategy, applying that pressure from the outside, holding those Democrats accountable, making sure that they understand that we are here and then we expect more of them and what we expect of them. Those, letting them know what those progressive policies are. And then the inside strategy is literally, we need to take over, a peaceful takeover, not a like January 6th takeover, but a peaceful, through the process, takeover like a corporation, because the DNC is a business. Sometimes they're in the business of losing and they get paid to lose, but we need to make sure that they get into the business of winning progressive competitions and getting progressive candidates into office. That needs to be their mission, is living by real democratic values and respecting them. And so what I'm sure everyone here has heard about the Nevada Dems, California Democratic takeover, the Rhode Island cooperative. All of those are takeovers on one level or another. And each state is going to be a little bit different. So you have to be willing to strategize based on the makeup of the state party. So what we did in Florida was after the Bernie campaign died, we had another like follow-up session with our state like Bernie coordinator and with the Bernie victory captains. And we talked, we did a little, a little funeral, as it were. But then we also talked about where we could find hope and what we could do. And we talked about an outside strategy and an inside strategy, and using our Bernie victory captain and our Bernie connections to try to take over the Florida Dems. In Florida, they divide the Democratic Party into counties. So there's 67 counties in Florida, and Florida is very red. It is red with splotches of blue and purple. Anyone calling it a swing state is probably like 8 years in the past. Florida is not a swing state. Texas will go blue before Florida does. That's my prediction. Florida has just been bleeding, losses, Dem Party losses for years. And the county parties had actually started to grow since with the Trump resistance. So that was a good thing for the Dems, but we weren't seeing the progressives get a fair shake. So what we needed to do was Florida, the state party needed a radical change. You see a lot of the same people kind of floating around the vice spots and the climbing the ladder, the general rotation of how long you've been, a few contentious votes here and there for taking over control. But you really need to get inside to get the power. And that's what politics is. Who holds the power? So in order for progressives to really win, progressives need to be willing to take power and take control of the parties. So 67 counties, this is how red Florida is, only 63 of them actually had Democratic parties. They call them executive committees, you know that. But there's 4 counties that don't even have 5 Dems willing to get together each quarter and call themselves the Democratic Party. So that's, the state of Florida. But that also means that, with just a few people, you could take over a party and become, more progressive. So that's what we did. We called all of the BVCs and we got them to promise to call all of their Bernie supporters and all of their people who were, tired of the Florida Dems and the way they were handling things and the way they were losing in campaigns and flushing good money after bad, and kind of promising them, like, let's make this an effort. I know you want to, most people, they wanted a Dem exit. And we told them, like, let's just make this good faith effort to win and put in power people that we would want to run the Democratic Party. And what we ended up doing was recruiting precinct captains. Think back to, Bernie's Our Revolution book. Get involved, run for something. The first thing you can run for is precinct captain. That's your true grassroots, you're kind of, you're at the bottom floor of politics, but you are a messenger to a whole precinct, a few hundred to 1,000 or so people who are gonna get their information on politics from you or your team of co-captains. So we recruited over 1,000 precinct captains throughout Florida. And we did not win. We did not take over. But that is because Florida actually has a very bizarre weighted vote system that the DNC has actually said is bad. How often does the DNC say, like, no, you shouldn't be doing that? That's not a democratic way of voting. So essentially you would have state committee people, 2 in each of those counties, but they would have different numbers of votes. So a Miami-Dade state committee woman would have 64 votes, whereas a state committee woman in one of the, counties that only have like 5 people in the whole party only had 2 votes. So those state committee positions were ripe for corruption. So you would end up getting people, horse trading, getting promises, who knows what, backdoor deals were being done, and they were real fights for power. And that's pretty much what happened. Is a former mayor who ran as an independent, didn't even run as a Democrat, ran as an independent and then decided he was going to be a Democrat later. And so he was flip-flopping in his own party. He is now the head of the Florida Democratic Party because he was also backed by Bloomberg. So money talks, and when you're deep in debt like Florida was after losing a lot, the elected officials and their weighted votes, plus the couple in like Miami-Dade, ended up kind of swinging the vote. So even though we had 15 state committee people, we didn't quite have the majority of the votes to win. But what we did do was we were able to use our power in the DNC elections. And we were recognized. We did a couple of press releases towards the state reorganization meeting to let people know we were there and who we endorsed and we had a plurality of votes going in. And if it weren't for one defector, we could have really changed the game. And so that'll be a talking point as well, on vetting your members in a somewhat secret society. We were very secretive about it going in, which was good and bad, because we may have decentralized too much. But I went off topic. The DNC members, we did end up getting, there were 11 DNC members to be voted on, and we got 4. So that, for having gone from 0 to 4, we considered that a win. And we had promised everybody, like, hey, if we don't win, go ahead, Dem exit. Like, we can't blame you. Like, you did the best you could. You did what we asked, what we all agreed on, and don't feel bad if you want to do something else now. And for the most part, I think I recruited about 25 or 30 people, and only like 5 either no-showed or decided they weren't going to participate after the loss. So I think that's really a pretty good percentage, considering the number that we started with who wanted, nothing to do with the Democratic Party. And the reason they're staying is, people drop out, people quit, and there's, chances in 4 years to, if you stay involved and keep them engaged, then in 4 years, it's going to be that much easier to actually get real power. And I think just based on, how they're, running things now, they'll definitely be a little wary of the, establishment, pick. So I think that's goodness. But what we had to do to get that far is you got to make a lot of calls, and you've got to find new members for the Democratic Party, and they've got to get involved sooner. You've got to backwards plan. So in Virginia, you'll have your reorganization in the hopes of having redistricting is now pushed out. So we have time in Virginia to think about how you do this. We were secretive in Florida at the beginning. We codenamed ourselves Storm the Castle. Given January 6th, I don't recommend that as a code name anymore. But we called ourselves in the press release, Not Me, Us, Florida, because it was centered in our Bernie campaign and keeping the idea going that the goal of getting progressives elected was stronger than which progressive we got elected. And the one defector we had a couple, we had like 3 defectors, but the one that really made a difference was the person who ultimately did what they thought was best for them and not for us. And so you've really got to make sure that the people involved in this effort understand that and fully commit to that going in. You can absolutely, have people who support a progressive effort, and we would just kind of triage people as, okay, those are allies. We know they're going to vote the right way, but they're maybe on the edge. They got too many friends in the Democratic Party. It's like their social network. They don't want to disrupt too much, but if given the chance, they would vote for the the better candidate, no problem. So yeah, when you're dealing with a takeover, you really have to trust that the people who are going to stick it all the way through, see it all the way through, and provide those votes when it counts, that they really take to heart the not me, us. When we were running the DNC, we had ranked choice, like who we wanted to be on the DNC, but then we also had to consider, identity politics, who from the other side might vote for this person in order to get more diversity on the DNC. And that worked in our favor. But that meant the person who was maybe higher ranked had to be like, okay, it's not about me. Let's get somebody we all trust on board. And that was like the best thing to see, because they don't do ranked choice voting. We did it in our internal system, but the Florida Democratic Party did not rank choice. So it took us like 18 or 19 rounds to get to the 11 DNC candidates. And they had like almost 200 people like start. And then you drop off like people who didn't hit 5%. So there was probably like 3 rounds in a row in the middle there where nothing changed. And we were just hoping for people to phone calls were happening, and they knew who to call in our group to, horse trade. Oh, well, if we support this person, would you support that person? And we were just able to stick to our guns because we knew eventually we would have the votes. And that's how we got, 4 good progressives onto the DNC, and they're, shaking things up. They're making a name. They forced, they had 25% of the votes, so they forced a meeting with the new FDP chair to reconcile with them on what happened with the firing of the newly unionized staff, to account for where all the money went, because we were so deeply in debt that they were, borrowing money, and there was a scandal about the staff had lost their healthcare insurance, and weren't told about it, so they were incurring debt. The FDP, quite a show down there. So the other accomplishments, we also got like 3 county DECs with large voting blocks were turned progressive. We got a few people to start progressive caucuses, because that's kind of in the Democratic Party in Florida where, you can safely confer with the progressive, members and kind of have a home within your Dem party to commiserate with. So that's good. And then, we had a position of power. We were, we were doing okay. So for Virginia, the chances here this year, you reorganized toward the end of the year. So I'm here. I will put my contact information down there. I think, we could adjust the strategy for Virginia, because most of the middle of the ground power is within the congressional districts, but same thing. There's always opportunities, and Virginia is somewhat similar in that you have those rural counties, cities and counties that don't need that many people to take over. So we know who the network of people are between our revolution, our Bernie groups. We know who to call, and that's what we need to do. I think with the primary coming up, everyone should just get the dust off. Let's get excited about some good progressives. But if our progressives don't make it, we've got more fish to fry. We've got to make the Democratic Party a place where progressives can live and breathe freely and have a better chance to win and be supported and have the money of the Democratic Party spent where it needs to go, because that's what really counts when you take over a state party is where do you get to spend that money. So I talked enough. Please ask some questions. Anyone?
Yeah, Kristin, Steven.
Go ahead, Steve.
How you doing? So Virginia, I was very interested in you talking about Florida and the Democratic National Committee. We have started to make progress in Virginia on that front. In 2016, to the surprise of everybody, including the candidate, the progressive candidate finished first for the 5 positions. That was Yasmin Tab, who was endorsed by our revolution, among others. And in 2020, we elected 2 progressives out of 5, Elizabeth Guzman and Josh Cole, to the DNC. And the important thing for Virginia state politics is that all members of the DNC from the state are also on the state steering committee. So they are involved with setting policy. So one very concrete thing we can do and start early is trying to identify and support so that we can get the next time around a majority, 3 out of the 5 at least. We went from 1 to 2, and maybe a reasonable goal would get a majority of the Democratic committee members. And the way it does work in the state central committee is the body that runs the Democratic Party of Virginia. And in order to be a member of that, you have to run and win from the Congressional District Committee, which reorganizes the year after the presidential election year. In other words,
Right.
I guess that would be the
Stephen, we need to let more people talk.
Thank you. But yes,
All right.
that's what
Yeah, I was done.
our group really did, was educate people. We would literally have large groups to educate them on how the system works. So you'd have to do the same thing in Virginia, is to let them know, okay, you need to be part of this party, then you need to be into this congressional district, and then you need to make sure you get in as a delegate here, and and then here's our slate of progressives, and make sure that those those people are all in the not me, us. It's not I deserve to be the delegate because I've been doing this for X number of years. It's is this person going to get the most votes? And how do we make sure, if we're all kind of co-equals and we're all in this together, who can actually get us there? Yeah, so education is key. Absolutely.
All right, so Dan S. had a question.
Yeah, just Kristin, you kind of mentioned that when one of the important things is that if you were to take over, you get to decide where the money's spent. But I was wondering, what is kind of the end game? Like, if you had taken over the Florida Democratic Party, other than the money part of it, what's kind of the advantage, or what's the end game there? What do you get out of it?
So the other things was changing the bylaws. So the first thing is to get rid of the weighted vote. And here they are in April, and they reorganize in January, and the weighted vote, the Rules Committee has just made a proposal. So they are working on that. So that was one good thing, that making a big enough impression on the group. They are proposing some reforms, but then you can make the Democratic Party more democratic, little d democratic, by changing the bylaws. Like, make sure there's ranked choice voting. Make it so that it's easier to find out who's in charge and what positions are vacant and how to be involved. A lot of the executive committees, it's hard to get the data from them, and they do it on purpose because they don't want to lose power. So you've got to, in the not me, us mind frame, you've got to be willing to lose your position if somebody does gain power, or, you've got to be willing to rotate and share power. And that's, and to do that, you had to change the rules. So that's the other power. You decide where the money is and you make the rules.
Thanks.
All right, I see that Rebecca has her hand up, so I guess she has a question as well. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Actually, if Kristin doesn't mind, I just have a couple comments about changing the party here in Virginia. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I know some of you don't. I lead our Revolution South Central Virginia, and I decided after reading Bernie's book to get involved in my local Democratic committee. I was never a precinct captain. So while that's a great idea for a lot of people to start, in some areas, they're begging for officers on these committees. I actually made it to the State Central Committee from joining my local committee in 9 months. Now, I'm in a rural area, and I understand that. I sit on CD5. One of the things about changing Virginia is that you work at it. We now have in Southern Virginia, I counted the other day, 11 county chairs who are progressives and Bernie people. That's a pretty big number. And part of how that happened was those of us who got involved in the party decided every time there was an opening or anytime something came up, we could try to fill that position. We had someone who could tell us the position was open, and we networked with each other so that we could fill those positions. On CD5, there are 23 members on CD5. 8 of them have resigned during the 4-year term. So each time there was a resignation, initially what they would do is they would appoint people. We had to really fight to get them on CD5 to say, you have to open that position up publicly so everyone has a chance to apply for it, right? They now do that. They don't like it, but we were able actually to gain a one-person majority on CD5 of progressive people. So it can be done. And one of the biggest reasons that we need to do this is because there's a lack of fairness in how things are done within the party. And we have major advantages right now in that, number one, the party's becoming more technology driven. And there are a lot of people who've been in the party a long time who are not technology driven. And that matters because it makes them uncomfortable with staying in. As well, quite simply, there are a lot of areas of the state where people are aging out. And it's not just rural. I've talked to people in counties near Richmond, suburbs of Richmond, places like that, where their leadership and their local committees is falling apart because people don't want to do the work. Progressives are known for doing the work. We're activists. That's what we do. We want action. We don't want to sit in meetings and socialize. We want to do something. So there's a real advantage here. If we gained control of the state steering committee, which is determined, some by electing people to these positions, but also if you think about it, most of us who have been involved with the party at all understand that there is a difference in how people who run for office are treated. If we truly want fair elections, then we have to change the leadership of the DPVA. It's clear that that has to happen. And my personal opinion is I worked for many campaigns. I've done a lot of groundwork, but I have never taken a penny from a candidate ever. And there are people who are taking money as lobbyists who are sitting in the highest offices in Virginia. There are lobbyists sitting as delegates in Virginia. I mean, we sincerely have to look at who we're putting in office. And if we really want campaign finance reform, and if we really want a public option for healthcare in Virginia and these kind of things, we have to organize. We have to know where those openings are. We have to get people to run for every single seat that comes open in the
Rebecca,
Democratic Party.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's okay.
Yeah, there's 5 minutes left in the Q&A, and I see Kirit has his hand up. So
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries, no worries. Just
Okay.
want to make sure everyone who wants to ask a question has a chance. So go ahead, Kirit.
Yeah. I had a question about Arlington, since we are Revolution Arlington. So the question is, how would we work?
You sound like you're underwater.
How would we, as an example, in one of our last in-person meetings at summer, the staff there had a longtime Democratic county board member, and there were pointed questions about Amazon. And essentially, he said, I represent all of Arlington. I don't represent just you activists. Essentially, a paraphrasing. So, how would you recommend we approach involvement at the local level? Since obviously, progressive policies with incumbents.
I'm sorry, I'm having so much trouble understanding. Can anybody translate? I couldn't hear the question.
One
Sorry.
second.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounded clearer.
Yeah, that was way clear. That was good.
And Tim, I see your hand raised after Kirit finishes his question and Kristin answers. You can be the last person.
I didn't get the question, Kirit. It was having to do with
But
Here, we can hear you now, I think.
how to approach the local level? We clearly have any say in the current Arlington County
Democratic officials, which hold all the offices, and very few of them are progressive. So that was essentially the question. I apologize for that.
Yeah, so a couple of things. I mean, if you want progressives to run, it would help if they know that they have support. So it's important for our revolution to be there and to truly support, progressive candidates, and then to hold those candidates accountable. Don't let them suddenly, go rogue and play nice with the establishment Dems. There's always, compromise, but never compromise before you get to the negotiation table. And so much of what we're seeing is Democrats compromising with Democrats. And so we want to make sure, one, that the candidates have a chance, and two, let's grow our own candidates from within. You don't have to have any sort of special background to become a politician. We can build our own from within if we can find them. Sometimes you just have to ask, like, hey, you know what you're talking about. Have you ever thought of running for office? I would vote for you. Or that sort of thing. So first we've got to identify the people just willing to be part of the party. And that's step one. So find those people. I mean, if it's not, precinct captains, again, it's can they get into the other congressional districts? But you've got to have people. We'll have to, you've got to have your eyes distributed to find out where those holes are, and to have people, filling out the paperwork on time. And that's the education of the masses is what's going to turn it in our favor. And I mean, Arlington is a hard case because we have so many establishment Dems, but it can be done.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that really quickly. I also think, as far as holding local people accountable, our local officials accountable, I would like to see our Revolution Arlington get involved in more kind of direct actions. For example, a few weeks ago, La Colectiva held a Pots and Pans rally outside of Kristin Dorsey's house to demand that the Arlington County Police Department end its collaboration with ICE. Our Revolution Arlington was a co-sponsor of that. I was there. Kristin was there. It was a pretty powerful event, and I think if there was more turnout for things like that, that would have a pretty powerful effect on local politics, given this corporate Dem stranglehold that you're describing in the area. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. And the last person, Tim, has had his hand up. So he has a question. Tim will be the last one. After Tim, we will move on to the next speaker. So go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Kristin, thank you so much for your presentation. Obviously, welcome back. Certainly glad to see you kind of at the helm of the state operation for sure, because I certainly have a great deal of respect for your organizing prowess and just your general stick-to-itness. So thank you very much for doing that. But I guess the question is, and I guess maybe people kind of already touched on this, but just Arlington just sucks. The Democratic Party sucks here, and Dan and I have talked about, Dan Schuler and I have talked about what it would take for us to try to take over.
Don't tip our hands in.
Yes, sorry, I don't want to out us here as having planned this, but it's just I see for me, I'm very much in the kind of I like to be out I like to be organizing around issues. I've been working on broadband for a while now, and housing and things like that. And I like to go door to door and talk to people and those kind of things. And it's just the reason I don't want to get involved in the Democratic Party in Arlington, and I know that, even you and I had actually discussed this before you left, is that they don't take positions on issues, right? They actually almost refuse. We have tried to like put resolutions to them, and like they'll be adopted by some people at the lower level, but then once it gets to the top, like they'll water it down, they'll rewrite it, they'll do whatever to basically not hold the elected Dems, the elected officials. Like if the elected officials say, we don't like that, like they literally get the chance to rewrite it. And I know like, the point is, okay, fine, well, we need to take over and change that. But like, I don't know, it's just like, I feel like the biggest thing for me that's really hard to swallow is like, if we get involved, there's just so much pressure to like support candidates, regardless of like whether we agree with their positions, you know what I mean? That's like the very strong, and I'm sure Susan can speak to that as well. There's a very strong like pressure to just support the person that's been nominated. And I understand that as a political party that tends to make sense, but like as the kind of outsiders, it's just, I don't know, it's just really difficult. And I know this isn't really a question, it's more a complaint than
but
anything.
You bring up
but
two great points that in my head that I didn't touch upon, and it kind of follows on to what Dan had asked. What can we get from this? So besides making the Democratic Party actually a little d democratic, in doing so, in getting to things like ranked choice voting, you also open up democracy to perhaps other parties, okay? And then you get real conversation on issues, and you can get into nuance, and if you have ranked choice, then you can go and show that you support this other party without consequence to the potential final result. You'll get a true consensus candidate that more people can live with. And so I think that's part of democracy, is opening up our democracy to more parties, but you kind of have to break the Democrats from the inside. But in making them more little d democratic, perhaps you'll also be able to get them back over in the left, and living by those values. Like, what's our platform? And if we have a platform, shouldn't we be beating our candidates and our elected officials over the head with it when they stray outside of that platform? Like, that's your model. You have a D by your name. It means these things, these values, these progressive positions, these left positions, and that's why you need to have control of the party, because you make the platform.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Jasmine just sent me a message from Jasmine with Elizabeth Guzman's campaign. She just sent me a message saying she and Elizabeth have to leave shortly because they have another meeting right after this. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but we got to move on to Liz Guzman now. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but thank you so much for.
Call me, you guys know. Yep, I'm here. I'm back.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Great presentation. All right, so yes. Sorry to rush through this bit, but we're on a bit of a time crunch. So the next speaker is, and this is very exciting, Elizabeth Guzman. She's going to be speaking about her campaign for Lieutenant Governor, as well as taking some questions. So you need to be heading out shortly, so I'll just I'll give the floor to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. It's glad to. Okay, let me see here. Have to reading a text from my campaign manager that are waiting me on the other event, so I apologize. But good evening, our Revolution Arlington. I'm excited to be here this evening to talk about my candidacy to become the first woman, a Latina, to be your next Lieutenant Governor. I'll be remiss if I don't recognize the support that each one of you have given me the last few years. The reason I first ran for office and became elected and became involved in our revolution was because of Bernie Sanders. So I have shared with you before my personal story in the past, but for those who don't know, I first became engaged in politics in 2006 as an activist, fighting Corey Stewart's racist 287G program that was profiling people who look like me in Prince William County. And back then I understood that local elections matter, and I needed to do everything I could to get people involved in every election cycle. Since then, I have helped Democrats up and down the ballot get elected every year. And in 2017, with your help, I flipped my House district from red to blue after Republicans held it for 26 years. And I did this by engaging non-traditional voters, such as young people, the Latinx community, rural voters, immigrants, and New Virginians. And then immediately after, I was elected as the chair of the class of 2017, the most diverse slate of delegates in Virginia's history. And as Lieutenant Governor, I wanted you to know that I will continue to fight for you, our Virginia families, and build on our successes to ensure the progressive bills that come out of the House finally pass the Senate. Since 2017, I passed 24 bills, including critical legislation to get paid sick leave for Virginia workers. And I've also passed legislation to protect our environment, reform our justice system, and I'm currently serving as the vice chair of the Education Committee, as we have passed the largest investment in public education. A month before the pandemic began, I passed historic legislation ensuring that our frontline public workers have the right to come together to form strong unions by ensuring that public employees in Virginia have the right to collectively bargain. Our revolution, many corporations, when they want to establish in Virginia, are getting tax breaks. And a good example is Amazon. But there's no accountability. Corporations like Amazon need to be held more accountable for our public transportation and affordable housing issues if they want to establish here in Virginia. The jobs they bring need to be high-paying jobs and union jobs that give workers rights, such as good health insurance and paid sick days. During my time in the legislature, I've known as a coalition builder because I know how to bring people together to get things done. And I know this because I did it, as I proudly served as the Virginia co-chair for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And then immediately after, I got an invitation to represent Virginia at the National Latino Leadership Council for the Biden campaign. And I'm proud to serve as your DNC member. And when I run, I reach out to every congressional district to get elected. And I got the most votes. And I wanted to do the same for this campaign. I pledged to visit every locality in the Commonwealth. And I'm happy to announce that we already visited more than 45 localities. And in 15 minutes, I'll be going to Henrico. Those are the good things about this pandemic, that we could do events and being in multiple places. And I'm proud to have been named the 2020 Legislator of the Year by the Virginia Education Association and the Fairfax Federation of Teachers. I believe that my experience as a legislator, a mother to 4 children, raising our public education system, and as an advocate for our schools to have the resources they need is extremely important as we begin to recover from this pandemic and work to safely head back to the classroom. I've also, in my time in the legislatures, held corporate polluters accountable, and at the same time received an A+ rating from the Sierra Club, and I was named a legislative leader for the League of Conservation Voters. Our campaign has earned endorsements of several labor unions and various elected officials and activists across the Commonwealth. This also includes multiple Our Revolution chapters across the state, such as Nova, Prince William, Richmond, and the overall Our Revolution Virginia chapter. I've also been endorsed by CASA in Action and Project ID for my fight to get driver's licenses and ID cards for every Virginia resident. My fellow Our Revolution brothers and sisters, as a mother of 4 children, we have never had a woman serve on this role. We've never had an immigrant elected statewide, and I'm proud to be the first Latinx person to do it. And I could tell you that it is easy, but it is not. As a woman working full-time, it is challenging, but I am committed. I'm all in to be your voice in Richmond, and one thing that I learned throughout my life is that if you're willing to sacrifice, you can accomplish anything you want. And that's why I'm in this race, because I know I'm not alone. Together, we're going to build something that's never been built before here in Virginia. And I held leadership positions within our party and our House caucus and in my professional career. And I will invite you tonight to join Team Guzman as we work to recover from this pandemic, achieve racial justice, fight climate change, and build a Virginia that is ranked #1 for working families. And I'm humbly asking for your vote in the primary on June 8th. Early voting starts April 24th. And I wanted you to know that the political revolution continues in Virginia. and it is time to bring a Bernicrat to the state Senate. So join Team Guzman, at least for LG.com, and let's make history together. Thank you so much, and si se puede.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, I see Tim has his hand raised. Tim, go ahead.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for coming to present. And I know you're short on time. And I wanted to say first of all, thank you so much for voting against giving subsidies to Amazon, because that's kind of a lead into what I wanted to ask you about. So we're kind of ground zero here for Amazon, and that is obviously going to have major repercussions for us very soon in terms of cost of housing and just the cost of living here in general. And we obviously, everyone knows that Virginia is a Dillon rule state, and the localities just do not have enough power to deal with housing at the local level. And we really need to empower tenants in various ways, in order to prevent mass dislocation that we can kind of expect, because we already saw what happened in Seattle once they moved in there and set up a full operation. So I just wanted to ask, I know you're one person, running for lieutenant governor, but we desperately need, new tools in the toolbox for housing, especially things like we need what they have in DC, like they have the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, so that when all these low-income market rate affordable buildings are going to undoubtedly start trying to convert into condos soon, we're sure, and tenants need to be able to have the right to band together and have first right of opportunity to purchase when that happens. And we also need, we just need to have some kind of rent stabilization, either at the state level, or we need to have it at the, or we need to give authority to localities to do that. So I would say in the last portion of it is just that, and this is what kind of Bernie Sanders has said at the national level, is that we need to bring back social housing. Like, housing needs to be treated like, human right. It needs to be treated like, a use value and not an exchange value. It needs to be, we need to have a lot more housing that's being built, that's owned by the community or the public in some way, and removing that from market forces. So I just want to know, what your position is on some of these housing issues, because we desperately need to act soon. And this isn't just obviously an Arlington problem, this is a Northern Virginia problem in general, but I just, I really want to see our elected officials, the progressive ones, like really taking a hard line on this, frankly. So anyway, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. You know what, as I moved farther south, when I had to purchase my first property to Prince William County, because I couldn't afford it anywhere else, this issue is really personal to me, mainly now, when the people who were coming to Prince William County are not coming here anymore because they can't afford it either. And now they are going to Spotsylvania, they are going to King George, and then we have more traffic because people continue to travel north in order to find a high-paying opportunity. And I'm going to start by saying that as a co-founder of the Green New Deal Virginia, I'm the legislator who passed one of the priorities during the last legislative session, requiring localities with more than 100,000 people and residents, and cities with 20,000 residents or more, to include in their 5-year comprehensive plan and 10-year comprehensive plan, when they are planning to include affordable housing and public transportation as well. But I think the part of the problem is that Amazon is a very good example, that we provide all of these freebies for people who come and establish here in Virginia. But we are in a position that right now we are #1 for business. So those freebies need to stop, and we actually need to start asking them to bring with them, affordable housing if they wanted to establish in Virginia. They need to bring with them public transportation and money to build more school infrastructure as well. Because we're thinking about making money, but we're not thinking about how are we making this money and how are we protecting the communities that are around this area. So I think that is extremely important. And to do that, we have to work with localities and to empower localities to take this seriously. Sometimes when we're talking about the developers, they come and set the price, and we are not looking at what they are doing. We are not demanding from them that if also, let's say they wanted to establish in Arlington, let's talk about at least 10% to be towards this social housing that you were talking about. Why it, and they have this program, it's possible in Alexandria. You know, anytime there is a new they're building new homes, what they do is 10% goes to affordable housing and the other 10% goes to employees. So at discounted prices. So what happened is that they are trying to bring employees to live in the city so they can work in the city too. And that's something that I would like to implement statewide as well. But I definitely, you know, I think if there is, we have a house of delegates that is very progressive, but one of the things that we need to deliver still more is on affordable housing. Right now we are studying, and I would like, you know, to give kudos to Delegate Samira, because he has bringing, you know, a very new concept on how to provide affordable housing without developing more, but actually, you know, allowing residents to, you know, split their houses in duplexes so they can be rented to people in need. And that idea, it's being studied right at the moment, and we're going to get the results for the next year in order to do more. But we have to, don't just right now, the way that the culture is, we're waiting on the federal government to provide us money through HUD. And that has to stop too. I mean, affordable housing has to be a priority for local government. It has to be a priority for state government as well. So we all have to work together in order to bring more affordable housing in Virginia. We should not be, you know, proud of having, you know, the highest prices for rentals or properties, because what happens is—
Elizabeth, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
yeah.
There are other people who are—
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Andrew, you had a question. You had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Dan. And thank you, Elizabeth. My question is around, we've got two great progressive candidates for lieutenant governor. And how are we going to prevent from splitting the vote so that we end up not getting anything? And I'd add to that the fact that for governor, we've got two progressive candidates, but the establishment has come out and gone for McAuliffe. So there's going to be a lot of push for him. Is there any thought, would it make sense to try to reach out to him and have like a grand bargain and say, hey, maybe get the progressives to support him, as hard as that would be for us, if they'll designate you or another progressive for lieutenant governor? Is that a play that can happen?
I don't think we can influence the voters in Virginia, because there's just one group of voters that we can control, but it's actually, we're talking about a lot of people, you know, here. And in all transparency, and I'm on the record for this, I have said it before, when I announced my candidacy for lieutenant governor, I did not know about Delegate Rasul. I reached out to him before I announced my candidacy, and I did not know that he had the intention to run for lieutenant governor. I then, like many of you, in August, he was in, I think in a town hall with one of the other candidates, Sean Perryman, and that's when he said that he was 50-50. 2 days later, he called me and told me that he was still 50-50. And I said, well, I'm all in. I've been working on this for a while. And after that, I didn't hear from him until the next day that he announced. But if it could have been the other way around, if he could have been on that race before, I could reassure you that I would not be running for office, because there was already a progressive on the race. And what I would say, though, is that for the lieutenant governor, we're in a position that I will make my case, you know, that it is, as you are, for that, what you are describing, Andrew, is that it's important to get a woman elected for statewide. You know, if the odds are that if you're mentioning that Terry is getting all of that support, well, this could be the race that we could actually get a woman across the finish line if all of the progressives get together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I had a question I'd like to ask. Mm-hmm. So you talk about being an immigrant. You talk about, you know, the things you've done for immigrants, and your endorsement by CASA. An issue that I personally really support, and back in July we had someone come speak on this topic, and I would be happy to show you the to share the recording of that meeting with you. But I think this is something Republicans fearmonger about. They act like it would be the worst thing on the planet, but you know, we have a ton of immigrants in this country who aren't citizens, but they're affected by the decisions that politicians make. Their lives are impacted by these things, and yet they have no voice in government. And in some areas of the country, there have been in some towns, particularly in Maryland, there are like 15 different towns that have implemented this. They've extended the right to vote to non-citizen residents. And is that something that you would be open to doing, to supporting?
Absolutely. You know, there is one example close by, you know, in Maryland, there is one city that they allowed undocumented immigrants to vote. And the reason is because they pay taxes, you know, and they pay taxes in different ways. Many of them, you know, pay taxes. They file their taxes through a number assigned to them by the IRS. But then anytime they go to a restaurant, they are paying taxes. Anytime they go and buy their groceries, they are paying taxes as well. So they do, you know, are contributing to that specific community. And I think that it's extremely important. I would support that. And to your point, to Republicans talking about fear mongering with immigration, I could tell you the last week, this is the second time that I'm in a radio show that it's mostly listened by Republicans. And they asked me the question about immigration. And one of the things that I learned from Senator Sanders is that when you really believe in something that you're passionate about, and immigration for me is extremely important, and actually the reason why he was comfortable talking about it is he decided to run. And I like to do that as well. So when I'm on these forums, they ask me about immigration, and I'm very comfortable to say that I support, you know, an immigration reform, and that the federal government has to take responsibility. We cannot be criminalizing people who are pursuing their American dream while the federal government has failed to provide a system that has allowed this to happen. Because we're talking about, you know, what these communities what America is doing for these communities, but we never talk about the untold stories of how these women who go across the border, they get raped by the coyotes, you know, in order to get here and achieve their American dream. We don't talk about the amount of immigrants that have to take jobs that are underpaid and sometimes not being paid because they don't have rights. We don't talk about the farm workers that have been working here for years with tourist visas without a path to citizenship. So there are so many things that we can talk about immigration, and I'm very comfortable. I have done it in the floor the first year I got elected, and since that day, there's no more fear-mongering against immigrants in the House of Delegates in Virginia.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Thank you.
So Jasmine tells me that that is the last question you have time for. Thank you so much for coming and speaking and answering our questions. It's great to have you. We're thrilled to throw our support behind you.
Thank you.
Yep. So yes, thank you, and we'll be in touch. I won't hold you up for your next meeting.
No, it's thank you. I'm glad to be back. Thank you for having me. If you would like to get involved, please, this is a grassroots campaign. Talk to your friends, your family members, your coworkers, to your amigos, amigas about this election coming up. You know, it's early voting. It starts April 24th. If you would like to volunteer, please let us know. And Jasmine will put a link in there so we are looking, if you are looking to support us through volunteer opportunities. But I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for having me, and look forward to seeing you down the campaign trail. Thank you so much.
All right, yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye. All right, so with that out of the way, and as I said at the beginning of this meeting, we have a very packed, tight agenda today. Next on the agenda, we will be hearing from Karishma's campaign. Hi, Sierra. Sierra, you're the campaign manager for Karishma's campaign?
Hey, I'm actually the field director for Christmas campaign.
Field director, yes. But yes, Sierra here is going to let us know about upcoming opportunities to phone bank and canvass and do other things to help support Karishma beat Alfonso Lopez in the 49th House District primary. So take it away, Sierra.
Awesome. Hey, well, my name's Sierra, as Dan was just saying. I'm the field director on Karishma's campaign. I just got started here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really excited to be a part of the team. There's been so much momentum so far, and very much looking forward to building on that over these last 8 weeks or so we have before Election Day. Just a little bit about me. I wanted to plug, I actually worked for our Revolution National through the general election and in Georgia. So I have a lot of love for our Revolution, have spent a lot of time as a regional coordinator with some of the other states. And so I'm excited to be here to able to talk with you all tonight, and hopefully we'll get to know you all over the next couple of weeks. If you're coming out volunteering, knocking on doors, all that good stuff. So like I said, we're just over 8 weeks out from the election on June 8th, and early voting starting, like Elizabeth said, on April 24th. So we're really getting close to it now. It's just a couple of weeks away before folks can cast their first ballots. And so we're really all hands on deck, out talking to folks in the 49th House District, making sure they know about this race and making sure they know about Karishma's awesome progressive platform. Because once folks have the opportunity to hear about Karishma and the things that she stands for, the organizing she's been doing around tenants' rights, around mutual aid, she was organizing a union at the preschool she taught at, that folks really respond well to that, right? And folks, know that they deserve to have healthcare. They know that they deserve to have housing, right? And so it's just a matter of getting in front of as many people as we can, talking about these issues that we all care about, and giving them the information that they need to turn out to vote. And so we have a lot of different ways for you all to get engaged. And I'll run through, I shared the links in the chat, and I also shared my name, my email. It's just Sierra@karishmaforvirginia.com. And then also put my cell phone number in there as well. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or anything like that. But the number one most important thing we're doing is going out, canvassing, knocking on doors. We do meet up outside at a parking lot. Kristin was there on Sunday yesterday. We all wear masks to go over the training, stand, socially distanced. And then once we go out to the door, knock, kind of take a couple of steps back to speak with the person. And it's been really effective. We've had a lot of great conversations on the door. One of the volunteers this weekend knocked on somebody's door. They were for the incumbent, Alfonso Lopez. After hearing a little bit about Karishma, they were like, okay, tell me more, tell me more. They were getting interested. And by the time the canvasser left, they were a #1 strong Karishma supporter and are going to go vote for her. And so that's exactly what we want to be doing with people all across the district, is talking to them about this race. And so there's opportunities to canvass on Saturday. We do 2 shifts, one at 10 a.m. So if you're a morning person or if you're an afternoon person, we also do it at 2. And then on Sundays at 11 a.m. as well. And then if you aren't able to go out and canvass, then we also have phone banking opportunities on Thursdays and Sundays. But if you are able to canvass, that's our #1 need right now, because that's just having those in-person conversations with folks at the door is a great way for them to remember it and actually turn out on Election Day. So if you are able to canvass, that's awesome. Hope to see you out at one soon. And then we also have something down here called Friend to Friend. So basically, Friend to Friend organizing is also called relational organizing. If any of you all were volunteering on the Bernie campaign and used the Burn app, that's basically what we're using, a different model of that called Reach. And so what Friend to Friend organizing is when we're out knocking on doors, when we're making phone calls, we're talking to folks we don't know about the election, right? Like we're just showing up at their house, talking to them. But with Friend to Friend organizing, we're having intentional conversations with our friends, our family, our coworkers, our neighbors, folks we go to church with, folks we do organizing with, making sure that they know about this race, checking in, seeing what issues are most important to them, and then also sharing our own personal story of why, we're supporting Karishma, why we're out volunteering for her. And it's honestly so effective. It's honestly just an amazing tool. And if any of you had used the Burn app, I'm sure you can vouch for that and how awesome it was. But so we're really wanting to roll out this Friend to Friend relational organizing program to touch folks, all across the district, making sure we're tapping into our own personal networks. Because having conversations with people, is just really effective, because you already have that trust there. You already have that relationship. Chances are you already are talking about the issues that are most important to them, like healthcare, education, all of those things. And so you can really lean into that. I'm seeing in the chat, tell us more about Karishma, and I will also share the link to her website so you can check out more about her yourself. Our Revolution Arlington recently endorsed Karishma, which is really exciting. And so that's really awesome. But she is a progressive. She's running for the House District 49, which about 80% of that district is in Arlington and the other 20% is in Fairfax County. Krishna is a preschool teacher. She's a community organizer. She's a daughter of immigrants, and is seeking to represent, the working class people in the district, not represent corporate interests, not take corporate cash, but really look out for the working class people. Like I mentioned, she is trying to organize the preschool that she was working at, a union organizing campaign. She was involved in the Black Lives Matter protest over the summer. She's involved in mutual aid work in Northern Virginia. And we're actually getting some mutual aid projects planned around COVID registration with Sunrise and some other groups. And we're planning some labor demonstrations. I know Our Revolution was involved in that with DSA and stuff on May Day. So there's a lot of cross collaboration from all kinds of progressive groups here in the district here in Northern Virginia. And I shared the link to her website in the chat so you can check out her full issues. She goes into a lot of detail and a ton of topic areas on there, anything from education to healthcare to housing. And yeah, would love to have the Our Revolution folks, Arlington, out canvassing with us over these next couple of weeks. If you've never canvassed before, we do a full training at the beginning. We go over everything. There's a script. You get literature to leave for folks at their door. It's super fun and is a great way to meet more folks, chat with folks in your community about things that are important to you. But yeah, does anyone have any questions or anything like that? Cool, awesome. Well, I shared my information in there. Feel free to send me an email. Hopefully y'all can get signed up for some of the upcoming events. And yeah, look forward to working with y'all soon to make sure Karishma gets elected to the 49th.
Fantastic. Thank you for
Thanks,
stopping
Sarah.
by. Thank you for letting us know. Oh, did you have something you wanted to say, Dan?
I was just saying thank you.
All right. Cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Sierra. This is great. Really, let's get it. Let's get this done. Yeah. All right. So next on the agenda, Our Revolution Arlington updates. Like I said earlier, we have a lot of exciting updates. One of those updates is something that Sierra just alluded to. Our Revolution Arlington is helping plan a rally in Virginia Hill Park, Virginia Highland Park. Yeah, with DSA Nova and Karishma's campaign and Sunrise and I believe a few other groups, but on the with a preliminary date of the 24th at 1 p.m. we are going to be hosting, along with these other groups, a rally to get the PRO Act passed, pushing for Warner to co-sponsor the PRO Act, and then afterwards, at least as of right now, the details are still being planned out. But afterwards, there's a hope by DSA that we can we can then from there go out and canvass for Karishma, so we can do that rally and then canvass for her. So yeah, these details aren't final. This is still in the planning stages, but it's an exciting thing, and I wanted to make you all aware of it because it's something ORA is involved in the planning of. The next item on the agenda, the next important thing is fantastic news. Our Revolution Arlington is the newest member of the Arlington Civic Federation. Woohoo! All right, and to talk about that more, Joe, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you were the one who was really involved in this, who really.
It's all Joe.
Yeah. Can you tell us some more, Joe? Tell us some more about this.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I'll just say a few things, and I'm not sure how much detail you want me to go into about the whole process. But so the Arlington County Civic Federation is made up of, according to the website, over 90 local active interest and issues-based and/or community-based organizations. A lot of local civic associations, plus groups like the NAACP, the Interfaith Council, the Coalition of Police, the education, the Arlington Education Association. I wrote down a few, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance, etc. So there's a bunch of groups, and now we're the newest member. They are a 501c4. They are, so basically, they have a monthly meeting that's open to the public every month. They usually have speakers. They sometimes talk on a topic. They and then they basically have a lot of committees that work on policy and positions to a certain extent. So they are a non-partisan organization, but they're not non-political. So you have a wide variety of organizations on it. There's definitely organizations that are pretty conservative on there, and then there's more progressive organizations on there, like us. It's a mix. I think it probably tends to lean more towards conservative, at least the active members.
Yes.
It was interesting to go to I wrote a letter initially explaining our interest, and that we had 20 members locally. And then we went to the meeting, and there were two major issues. One is people were saying that we're partisan Democrats, which I'm really glad this meeting was after all that went on and not prior to that. That might have helped. But that we're not. Now essentially we're not. I know that we have. I explained that we have a broader base than that, and that we're not. We're just working to do democratic goals. We're working on local issues-based goals, just like the point of the group. So we're and we happen to endorse a few candidates. We're a 501c4, so we can do that. We're not even party. We're not technically locally incorporated. The national party is a 501c4, and so is the ACCF. They're also a 501c4. So there's no. So that was a big debate about the fact that we endorse candidates and how much we do. That's actually. Are we basically working for Democrats? Or are we doing it on? So I had to make that argument, and it's just most of what we do isn't, and I had to go through, and I went through all the things that we do with the Arlington Fiber and the Amazon our Amazon opposition, and our local to try to work on in December when we had that COVID the business COVID forum, the COVID business and small business and enterprise and during COVID, and then just all the other stuff we do about community land trust, all the informational stuff, all the stuff that we focus on, and on co-ops and things like that. So that was one argument. The other big thing that took a while was per their bylaws and historically, they've only asked you to assert that you have 20 members living in Arlington. So apparently 5 or 6 years ago, a group tried to join, and they were a serious question about whether they actually had 20 members. So they started asking, we need names and addresses. So they asked us for 20 names and addresses, and that took a while to get. I didn't take it too seriously at first. I was like, really, they need an address for every single person? But yes, they took it seriously. There was definitely a lot of debate during the meetings about that. It was interesting to be at the board meeting, just to hear the debates between the group and there's a lot of people that were just a lot of people that were on our side. That were basically saying that we shouldn't have to do this. It's not in the bylaws. They didn't have to do it. But then there's a couple newer groups that said, well, we had to do it. So, so all these other new groups had to do it. So I think they're going to relook at their bylaws and exactly what they're going to require in the future. But we did eventually get, and then it came down, at the end, it was definitely a bit of a nail biter finish, because the rules say they needed 60% of the voting members present to vote for us. Now, is there a question about who is a voting member? Is it just everyone that's eligible to vote, or is it everyone that didn't abstain? So if you counted the abstentions as essentially no's because it wasn't 60%, we would have lost. But they made a decision, they had internal debate about that, and then they said, no, we're not going to count the abstentions as no's. You need, so instead of 16% of the members present to vote, it had to be 16 members of the people that chose to vote And so at that point, then we won because it was like we would have lost by 1 vote if the abstentions had counted as no's. So that took actually about 10 days because originally we were told that we didn't get in, and then we got in. So I think the group is good that we can basically provide our positions, our input, our influence on the subject matter, on the issues that they're talking about. We can be on committees of the group and actually maybe influence the positions, and we also hear obviously other groups' positions and maybe learn about some issues, because again, there's all these local community organizations. Maybe there's issues that we wouldn't necessarily be aware of that we'd become aware of. So I think those are all positive. I think those are I think it's a good thing that we remember. We can, by the way, have up to 4 delegates and 4 alternates. So anyone that wants to be an official vote member, we can have up to 4 voting members. We only need 1. I don't think we were required to have 4. There's no minimum number. But we should have at least someone present at every meeting. But we can have up to 4 people that could vote at every meeting. So anyone, I think we are going to. I think we reached out to people, but I'm just saying that people are interested. Maybe get in touch. Anything else you want me to talk about?
No, that's everything. That's everything. That's a great overview. Yeah.
I pasted into the chat a really well-written Blue Virginia article that I stumbled upon. I don't know if anyone else had seen this, but
there have been a few articles I saw, which is exciting.
There's actually quite a bit of articles about it. This is the most exciting thing that's happened.
Oh, really?
Federation in quite a while, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, very, very exciting news. And yes, the more people we have showing up to these meetings to vote, who can vote, the better. So yes, please reach out to us if you're interested in being a voting delegate at these meetings. And
big props to Joe again. That was quite a slog.
Oh yeah, he put in he did all the heavy lifting for this. Everyone give Joe a big hand.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the last bit of our Revolution Arlington updates before we move to public forum is at our last steering committee meeting, we were talking about the bylaws. Speaking of voting membership, the current bylaws state that in order to be a member, you have to attend 3 ORA meetings within a year, and that is the only criteria, which is, at a glance, is fine, is all well and good. But there is one weak spot to that we identified, which is that, okay, we're independent, even though we're progressive. We are issues focused. We work with anyone who is willing to work with us on issues we care about. And that can lead to people who don't, share our values in general or our vision more broadly, attending our meetings, and that creates the potential for people who aren't progressives but agree with us on certain issues to potentially become voting members just based on that pure 3 meeting criteria. So what us on the steering committee were discussing was amending the bylaws to add a requirement that in addition to the 3 meetings you attend, you also have to have a demonstrated observable agreement and alignment with the Our Revolution platform, with our values. And any change to the bylaws has to be approved by 2/3 of the membership. So we will be sending out another vote. We did votes for endorsing in the 49th House district race, and a few straw polls for who to recommend OR National endorses for governor and lieutenant governor. We'll be sending out another vote like that to all of you to decide on whether or not to amend the bylaws to include this new provision. So that is our last, that's our last update. Oh, yes, Allison, please do.
So I remember doing the last bylaws. Is it certain that it doesn't already say 3 events and agree with the platform? It does not say that?
The last time I looked at, I took a glance at it the other day and I didn't see it there. I think it just said, I could double check. And if I double check and it turns out it's already on there, then yeah, forget all of this. You won't see you won't get the email or anything, but I believe it's not on there. I have the bylaws saved though, so I can
Yeah.
check real
Also,
quick.
I just wanted to say that I think if it's going to be formally in the bylaws, it needs to be something that is actually an up or down kind of thing. And by that, I mean, instead of saying demonstrably in favor of the platform, I think it would need to say something to the effect of that the person would simply agree in some way that
I
yes, I agree with this platform.
Demonstrably isn't the best word, but yes, agreed. You're so let's see here. So I'm looking at so I'm looking at the bylaws right now, but yeah, I agree with you on that point. Let's see here. So membership requirements, and Kristin, I'd be happy to talk a little bit more about like the rationale, what got us thinking about this, separately. I don't want to get into a whole thing, but yeah, current membership requirements. Voting membership is open to anyone who wishes to become a member who has attended 3 events in the prior 12 months. Membership is completed by signing into 3 events or contacting a steering committee member with dates of events attended. Membership rules can be changed by a 2/3 majority vote. Member is entitled to. No, there's nothing about alignment with OR platform with alignment to the OR platform or progressive values.
Thanks for checking, and Kristin's comment is a good one as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's why we're saying that's why things like this have to be put to a vote. It's not why we on the steering committee can't unilaterally and shouldn't unilaterally decide these things. That's why it's in the bylaws. So no worries there. We'll see how that plays out. So that is everything as far as ORA updates. With that in mind, I will turn it over to public forum. We have about 19 minutes left. Susan, I remember you had something you wanted to share.
Yes, I do. Yeah, can everybody hear me?
We hear you loud and clear.
Yep.
Okay. All right. The Arlington County Democratic Committee has announced that the 2021 School Board Caucus will be conducted using the online balloting platform, Democracy Live. This internet-based balloting option will facilitate safe voting under COVID-19 pandemic conditions by enabling voters to cast ballots securely from computers, from tablets, or smartphones. And the School Board Caucus will determine who the Arlington Dems will support between 2 candidates who are running, Miranda Turner and Mary Cadera, in the November 2nd general election. They are running for a seat that is currently held by the school board chair, Monique O'Grady, but she's not seeking re-election. Voting in this caucus will take place from Monday, May 17th through Sunday, May 23rd. It'll be open 24/7 during the week of voting. And again, the platform is mobile device compatible. For those people who do not have Wi-Fi or computer access, our Dems will be hosting in-person voter assistance sites throughout the county, which will provide laptops for people to vote on, and also voter assistance for anybody who needs help getting to the ballot, the online ballot. And the hours for that are Wednesday, May 19th, 5 to 8, and Saturday, May 22nd, 1 to 5. There'll be one site near Tuckahoe Elementary School, one site that's near Clarendon Station, and one site near Walter Reed Community Center. And all this information and more about the caucus is listed on the RLDEM's website, and I'll post a link to this page in the chat. This is also the page where you will vote in the caucus from May 17th till May 23rd. And in addition, there is a debate between these two candidates scheduled for April 29th at 7 p.m. And I will also post a link for that debate in case you want to sign up for it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Does anyone else have any updates, anything going on in any organizations they're with, anything they want to share, any upcoming events, anything? The floor is open.
Dan Allison has said
yes, go ahead, Allison.
I just wanted to say that the Arlington Educators Association is working on doing a process about possibly endorsing one of the school board candidates. I can keep you guys posted about that. And Susan, can you just clarify how people would, I don't know how to like find the link or how we would be directed to access the voting?
Yeah, that's what I said. I just posted the link in the chat. Here, this is the link for the school board caucus webpage. And that webpage that tells all about the caucus is also the page you're going to go to vote. Does that answer your question?
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. And also, I'm just now posting a link for the school board candidate debate too, to sign up for that. There we go.
All right. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Allison. Anyone else? Anyone else have any updates? This is the public forum period. So Kirit, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention that some of us were involved in the saving of the Fabre Rouse property, which is on Wilson Boulevard, which is a historic Civil War house. It has been demolished. The county board, it took no action. And I just want to mention that they're supposed to take it up at their April 17th meeting. And there are rumors that they're just, because the Historic Preservation Board voted that this property is historic. There are rumors that now that the property's been demolished, they're not even going to they're not even going to discuss it. So I think it's important that they took no action, but they still should, if they're going to have a Historic Preservation Board, they should consider their recommendations and make some comment about it. So I just want to mention that.
All right. Thank you, Kirit. Thank you for that update. Anyone else?
I've got one.
Yes, Kristin.
If you all haven't already, if you could call Senator Warner or email him and go ahead and let him know that we expect our Democrats to support the PRO Act, that would be great. I think the PRO Act is the way that we get people out in the streets. We keep saying we need a general strike. We've got to, give them a means to exist and do that. So PRO Act gives me hope. And then also if you could call, well, it's not a case in Arlington. I'm rather happily surprised with Don Beyer lately. he's voting along the progressive lines, and I couldn't be happier. He is one of the two co-sponsors in Virginia for the Medicare for All Act for 2021. We have 7 Dems, and only 2 of them have co-sponsored. That's shameful if 50% of the population is actually in support of Medicare for All, and 80-something% of Democrats are. So our Democrats aren't really representing us. So feel free to call the others and be like, I'm in Virginia. Thank you. Thank Don Beyer. Like they'd love that, I think, to get a good news out of a constituent. And then tell the other Congress people, it's Bobby Scott and Don Beyer, the only 2.
Oh, Kristin, since you mentioned that, do you know the story behind what led to Don Beyer co-sponsoring Medicare for All?
I don't remember it.
It was in 2017. I'm going to link about it here. The DSA, Nova DSA, actually held, and when I talk about direct actions, this is another example of that. What they did was Nova DSA held an action where they just completely packed a town hall that Don Beyer was holding, just packed it to the gills, and just immediately just flurried over to the just packed the line for Q&A and just kept asking him, all of them, over and over and over and over and over again, kept asking him, will you support Medicare for All? Will you co-sponsor Medicare for All? Will you co-sponsor Medicare for All? Will you co-sponsor Medicare for All? I was there. Let's see, is it if you watch the video, you'll actually you'll see me very briefly. I'm in the blue flannel shirt. Yeah, so
this is terrific. This is what we need to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
now that we're all getting vaccinated, like we should take the opportunities to bird dog and get out there.
Yeah.
And kind of like a safe segue into that is this canvassing. I wore silver lining of getting cancer is I got the vaccine in the second phase. So I just wore a sticker saying I am vaccinated, and so many people are answering their doors. It was a shocking response rate. But yeah, like get out there, knock some doors, make some phone calls.
All
Do
right.
a phone bank on Wednesday. Check it out. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah. And that now that I'm thinking about it, one other update. La Colectiva and some other groups in the area have been working to get Arlington and other counties in Northern Virginia to remove police officers from schools, get the SROs out of schools, and they've been circulating a petition to the county boards of Arlington County, Fairfax, and Prince William, calling on our elected officials to do that. I'm going to leave the link in the. Is that okay? It does it. That's not a hyperlink. So let me try that again with the full URL. Yeah, there we go. So there is a link to sign the petition to get police out of schools. So please sign that. That's an important thing. That's a good thing. But I just wanted to share that. Any other updates? Anything?
Oh, one more. There's going to be a Mother's Day virtual rally.
Oh, yeah, right. Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I totally blanked on that too. Thank you for remembering.
I'll put the flyer in the chat. It's just 1 hour. It's going to be a fast-moving 1 hour, just about kind of reclaiming Mother's Day to save Mother Earth. So a Mother's Day climate rally, May 8th, 2 p.m. Saturday, with a quick action on about promoting the climate crisis, and then they'll give you some it ends with I thought it was really neat. It's going to end with a lady who has written a book about how to talk about climate change with your children, and so she's going to give some things you could do as a family or something like that. But it looks like it's going to be a nice fast moving program for 1 hour, May 8th, 2 p.m. Thanks.
All right. Well, Well, thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, with all of that, if there are no, is there anything else? We got 8 minutes left. If not, we can end a few minutes early. No. All right. Going once, going twice.